Entry number 17. Dark, darker, yet darker. The darkness keeps growing. The shadows cutting deeper. Photon readings negative. This next experiment seems very, very interesting. What do you two think? And now I know who you two are. Dr. W.D. Gaster. He's simultaneously the linchpin that holds together the stories of both Undertale and Deltarune, and a puzzle piece that just doesn't seem to fit anywhere. He's managed to stay one of the most relevant topics of discussion for Undertale fans ever since its release over 6 years ago. One of the biggest points of contention has been the infamous entry number 17, where he ends his report with the hotly debated line, "What do you two think?" I believe that this is one of the most important mysteries related to Gaster, as it links him to characters within the actual story. So let's figure out who they are. I, like a lot of people, believe that the first one of these two people is Sans. There's just far too much evidence that points to Sans not only having a connection to Gaster, but having worked with him at some point in the past. Everything from his secret room to his reports about time and space distortions, it points to him very clearly having worked with Gaster. His weapon is even called the Gaster Blaster. I don't think you can get much more clear than that. Now, before we talk about who I believe the other person actually is, let's discuss some of the other common candidates that I've heard. First, the most common character I hear talked about being Gaster's associate is Alphys. While Alphys does make sense, as she ended up succeeding Gaster as the royal scientist, I believe that there is evidence that she is not Gaster's other associate. Namely, why would Asgore take so long to choose a replacement if one of Gaster's proteges was right there? I think after whatever happened to Gaster happened, both Sans and the other associate left the True Lab. That's why Asgore took a long time to replace him. If Alphys was there from the start and Gaster had died or disappeared, Asgore would have had a much easier time choosing a successor if there was already a protege of his right there. That leads us nicely into our next candidate, Papyrus. We know that both Sans and Papyrus are connected to Gaster by, well, their names being fonts. However, I don't think that Papyrus worked directly with Gaster in the lab. Most proponents of this theory seem to claim that Papyrus is actually significantly smarter than he seems and knows more than he lets on. However, there are moments like when he receives phone numbers from Flowey that make me inclined to believe that he really isn't aware of everything. At the very least, not all of it. Furthermore, it has been officially confirmed in both Deltarune and the Japanese localization of Undertale that Papyrus is Sans' younger brother. While I don't have evidence of this, I believe that during the period when Sans and Gaster were working together, Papyrus was likely a child. Next, we have Undertale's second most mysterious character, Kara. I have no doubt in my mind that Kara is not Gaster's associate. The research being conducted in the True Lab seems to have always been centered around the 6 human souls. However, Asgore didn't even begin gathering human souls until after Kara's death. I find it really hard to believe that Asgore would allow these kinds of experiments to be conducted on his own child. So unless Gaster was conducting determination research under the king's nose, which I guess he could have been, I have to rule Kara out. So if it isn't any of these people, who is Gaster's other associate? Well, to discuss that, we first need to establish something important about the way that Undertale presents its story. One thing to keep in mind is that the music we hear in the game is extremely important. It serves as a secondary storytelling device, linking characters, locations, and themes together. That is also where I believe we will find our second candidate. We need to look at Gaster and Sans, and we need to find out what characters they musically connect to. And I found it. A single moment that we all overlooked. A moment we all took for a joke. A moment that connects Gaster to Sans, and Sans to someone else. Take a look. That's right. Are you starting to see it now? It's all coming together, isn't it? It's the dog. The annoying dog. The in-game representation of Toby Fox himself is Gaster's second associate. Now, at first, I thought the idea was ridiculous. But the further I looked, the more evidence there was. While the dog is a character that follows us for a large portion of the game, he mostly seems to frequent areas where Sans and Papyrus are. He even appears in Papyrus's boss battle in-house! This dog is clearly familiar with the skeletons. Another thing I think is really important is that Megalovania is not Sans' song. It's Toby Fox's. Maybe Sans is still working with the dog in some manner. That's why Sans refers to our reports. What could this mean for Deltarune? Well, the dog does appear in a few places in chapters 1 and 2, including the computer lab. In chapter 1. Wait. Is the dog?